Welcome to the fourth section of our course. In this section, we'll be looking at the reactive programming with Spring Web Flux, and we will be using Spring Boot together with it. So, first we will be exploring Spring Web Flux dependency. We will see why we need it and which classes are encompassed in this dependency. Then we will be creating a Spring Web Flux application that is leveraging that dependency with reactive flow that works in an end-to-end fashion. Third video will be about implementing reactive web services with router functions. So we'll see how can we create reactive router functions that are exposing API. Finally, we'll be using router functions and testing them. So this is the first video, and we'll be exploring Spring Web Flux dependency. So we'll add that Spring Web Flux dependency, we'll be investigating classes that are within it, and we'll be understanding Flux REST mapping in Spring. So if you want to have support for Web Flux and Reactor project, you need to have a couple dependencies. First one that you need is of course Reactor core. This will give you the Flux and all reactive stuff. But this is only the API of reactive processing. We want to plug it into Spring Boot starter. So as you remember, every Spring Boot application has a starter. For example, here there is REST application that is annotated with Spring Boot application. But this performs scanning in classes and so on. So if we will create reactive logic, we want to plug it in Spring Boot starter. To have that, you need to have Spring Boot starter Web Flux dependency. So this dependency is very important because it will give us the ability to expose our API by the Spring component. So we can create a reactive REST endpoints and expose them using Web Flux dependency. Also for testing we have of course Reactor test, but those are two of the most important dependencies. Also we want to have Spring Boot starter test to allow us to test our reactive flow in the integration testing. So once we have those pieces together, let's take a look what is inside of the Web Flux. So let's see the server response. Server response is a class and is available in a Web Flux dependency, and it encapsulates the reactive entity. So we can see that we have a lot of classes that are responsible for processing fluxes. So this, for example, root function is class that gives us an ability to expose API by using Flux or Mono. So we can use those two constructs to compose and create reactive applications together with Spring. We will be using some methods from it, like for example resources, and also we can do to HTTP handler and so on and so on. So those are unit functions that could be useful for you. So once we have that dependency, we are ready to create Spring components.